this morning. Got out of the Derrick Knob shelter about 6:38, 6:39, somewhere in there. Took about an hour and a half to get down the Greenbrier Ridge Trail. And then this waterfall here, Indian Platts Falls, that I took a picture of before, but didn't take the time to see if I could get down to the lower level. This is probably about maybe no more than a quarter mile down from the junction of Middle Prong and the Greenbrier Ridge and Lynn Camp Prong trails. Going good? Almost out. Well, I made it back home to Indiana safely, completing my 11-day journey. I averaged about just over 10 miles a day. Even though it was spanned 11 calendar days, I was out for just under 10 24-hour periods, and I hiked a total of just over 101 miles. Some of the things I learned or thought were unusual was, where was everybody? You know, it was perfect hiking weather, you know, in the middle of July, including 4 weekend days, and I hardly saw anybody on the trails. I was almost usually alone in the campsites at night, so that really surprised me about the Great Smoky Mountain National Park, at least this year. I'm not sure why that was that way. I would have expected it to have been busier. Some of the things that I learned, I didn't actually need a filter in the Smokies because water was so plentiful, and I prefer not using a bladder system. I had 2 1-liter bottles, and by the time I drank the 1 liter, the other one had had at least 4 hours for the bleach to work to kill off anything that was there. And the streams were clear, so I didn't have to worry about filtering out any dirt and grunge and that kind of stuff. Obviously, if I was somewhere else, I would have had to use the filter, or if it had been hotter, or I'd had longer, tougher uphill climbs, or I would have drank more, I might have actually used the filter, but in this case it wasn't necessary. I also discovered that I did not eat all that much. I came back with 2 dinners, 5 breakfasts, and 3 of the 10 power bars that I had used for lunch, along with the gorp. I did eat all of my gorp. I guess I'm a gorp fan. So, and I've found that generally also when I'm like doing heavy labor, like remodeling my house like I have been, I generally don't like to eat. So when I'm exercising heavily, you know, hiking in the mountains, I guess I still don't like to eat. So even though I took the proper amount of food, I just didn't eat it all, and in reality I only lost about 6 pounds, you know, which actually was kind of disappointing to me. But that was another thing I found out. Just because the weather was so perfect, I was kind of disappointed that I didn't get a chance to weed out any issues with how I might deal with things in the rain. You know, my poncho was always at the ready in the main pocket of or main outside pocket of the pack. You know, all I had to do is unsnap my pack, unzip the pocket, pull it out, put it on, and I was ready to go if a torrential downpour occurred. But I didn't have the joy of having to set up and tear down camp in a downpour. So the only time I've actually done that is with that overnight that I did with my middle son back at the end of May. We actually had to set up the tent in a downpour there. And it worked fine, but I would like to have had more experience dealing with wet conditions, and that this didn't happen this year. Also discovered that even though I purposely went without flip-flops or anything like that, I actually would have liked to have had that. I don't think Crocs would have been very good, you know, unless I hung them on the outside of my pack, but then they get cut off on something. But I don't think Crocs compress very well I imagine that they're heavier than flip-flops, you know, a cheap pair of flip-flops. So I'd like to have just some cheap, lightweight flip-flop that I can just wear around camp next time. You know, now I can go barefoot, that's no problem, but not have to worry about swiping my feet off, you know, and getting stuff inside the tent. Or flip-flops, I could just lean outside the door and smack them a couple times or whatever. So that's one thing I'd like. And I also discovered that, you know, I'd only taken the first aid kit that I gotten for free from the Indiana Blood Center for donating, you know, blood and platelets so often. And it had a variety of stuff, but it did not have moleskin, and it did not have a lot of larger bandages. You know, to cover up, you know, problem areas. So that's why I ended up having to go buy some Band-Aids, large Band-Aids, you know, to deal with my Achilles. Now it wasn't a blister, but just kind of rubbed it raw back there. And had one callus on my other foot that ended up being a little painful. I did put a Band-Aid on that one. That Band-Aid was all right, but in general, I need to have some larger Band-Aids, and I need to actually go get some moleskin, so I won't have to worry about that anymore. And I think that's pretty much it. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to getting out on the trail some more, whether in the Smokies or elsewhere. I'll probably start a little closer to home because generally I don't think I'll be in the Smokies except every July, since we'll be down there in that part of North Carolina pretty much every July anyway, it seems. So I'll probably reserve the Smokies for that time of year in general. But we have like the Knobstone Trail in Indiana here. It's a 58-mile trail that, from what I hear, is quite challenging. A good training ground for the DAT, from what I understand. And then there's the Chiltowee Trace Trail that goes through the Daniel Boone National Forest in Kentucky. It's a 269-mile trail I'd like to do sometime. So we'll start doing some more stuff closer to home. You know, go through some of the Hoosier National Forest. Has a lot of trails. That's where the Knobstone is in part of that at least. And some of the state parks. But had a great time. You know, of course, the weather played a good part of it. If it had rained the entire 11 days I was there, maybe I wouldn't have had as positive experience as I did. But I'm glad that I had the weather I did, because it's good to start off with a good experience, I think.